As Wilmington's grown, our garden tour has just blossomed into this huge event that our entire club spends the entire year getting ready for.
In the next really 10 to 15 years is looking upwards of about 50,000 more people coming into our market, which is a positive thing, and we've got to obviously build for that. Homeownership is still a vital component of the economy in general. It's made in America, it's made right here, and I think the economy is starting to really bounce back. They're starting to look at homeownership again. Folks are coming back into the market. They realize what homeownership can do as far as the overall stability of their life, their wealth, and just a general investment. North Carolina has been ranked consistently as one of the strongest bases as far as job improvement. And also with that, they're starting to see the rebound of housing. From the state perspective, I'd say within the last 18 months, housing numbers, permit numbers, and just general starts. And those are good, strong indicators of getting back to that key term, confidence. And we have a lot of good positive attributes here in Wilmington locally. Of course, we have the beaches. We also have the downtown. We have the rivers. And so we have a lot of scenic areas, a lot of historic areas. And those are all good attributes to create a positive environment for a healthy home building industry. We're seeing a lot of permits being pulled in our beach communities, which is a strong indicator that not only are we starting to see the middle market come back, which your price points typically talking about your $225 to about your $325, but we're also just starting to see the $1 million range come back into our market. We have a very strong retiree market here, and certainly that presents challenges, but we also have a housing market that is responded to that challenge. And some of the population estimates that we're looking at in the next really 10 to 15 years is looking upwards of about 50,000 more people coming into our market, which is a positive thing, and we've got to obviously build for that, not only as far as the residential but the commercial, and also from the job perspective. We've got some good, strong years of growth ahead of us, and we just got to figure out how we capture that and certainly turn it into positive.
I'm Jackie Margolis, and today we have a wonderful guest on the show. It is Tommy Harrelson from Southport, who was our North Carolina representative, House of Representatives, for 2 terms, and also he was secretary for the Department of Transportation. But today he comes to us with a different hat. Today he comes to us as an author. Tommy, I'd like to know what inspired you to write about Art Newton's life.
It started with my dad's store. He painted a picture of my dad's store that was on the waterfront in Southport, and Dad bought it for $15 way back then, and we've had it all these years. It survived Hazel. Then over time I've collected a few more paintings, and I finally had them in a place where I could see all of them at one time, and they just called me to do something with them, whether to have a retrospective show, or then someone suggested, why don't you do a book? And that's how I got started with the book. He was well respected as an artist and as a photographer. All of the photography that you see in that area of Hurricane Hazel was his. He was out everywhere shooting pictures, and he did high school albums and that sort of thing. He was a well-known photographer, and he was a well-known and well-respected artist. He was mostly a watercolorist, but he could paint in oils, and he did some really nice pen and inks, pencil sketches, and ink washes. So he was very versatile in what he did. At the time, the fellow artist said that he had a lot of emotion in his painting. He had a feel for his subject matter that almost no artist could match. He lived that life on the water. He was on the water himself a lot, helping support his family by fishing and clamming. But he loved the water, and it shows through his paintings. He was really fascinated with shrimp boats and the shrimp industry, the shrimp houses, everything about that industry. Had a few, they're called charter boats everywhere but Southport. We call them party boats. And he did those, and the Menhaden boats. He did some of those. But he did fine buildings in Wilmington too. We don't have them all. I know there are more out there, but we've got what we could find. And even found beauty in Acme Fertilizer Company's building out in near present-day Regalwood. It's a beautiful painting. The biggest part at the beginning was collecting, finding all the works of art, and they're in people's homes. There are just a very few that are in museums or libraries. People that own the paintings, they're treasures to them, and they don't want to sell them. I was lucky in that I had a store in Southport, and I had paintings up, and people would come in and see them, and maybe they didn't care about it, and they would sell me their paintings or their drawings. And that's how I got my little collection. And Art gave paintings away to his close friends too. Those are some of the prettiest ones. His family were the best source we had because they over time had saved all of these artifacts from his life, his sign-up sheets for shows, his inventories, and then they had a large collection of working drawings which are included in this book, which kind of tell the tale of how he put the art together. He would do a pencil sketch and then from that do a painting, and sometimes he would do photography, of which he was a master too, and then from that do paintings. I actually used a local publisher, Slapdash Publishing out of Carolina Beach, Daniel Norris, and that was meant to be. This man is just brilliant. This had been on his bucket list. He always wanted to publish an art book, and so he took it to heart and worked beyond what anybody should have worked. He worked very hard on this book, and it shows. It's a beautiful book.
Around here, we work hard for you. We get started before the sun comes up and work well into the night. We use only the freshest ingredients for our food and our craft beers. At Front Street Brewery, we're passionate about our work and what we serve. For nearly 20 years, we've been proud to call Wilmington home. So from our family to yours, thanks for coming in. Front Street Brewery, serving you since 1995.
Look through the eyes of the past and see the future as history comes to life. Explore and discover the stories and memories of life at sea.
Chief, we're losing main steam pressure. Right.
History comes alive on the battleship North Carolina.
The most talked about travel experience is a river cruise. We work with top name operators. There is no better way to see the world than on a river cruise from Four Seasons Travel and spend less time getting there and more time being there.
Bring your home movies into Carolina Video Edit Centers for professional high-quality transfer. From old-school VHS to the latest digital cameras, we can transfer to disk, hard drive, or upload directly. Whether it's digital archiving or social media sharing, we can do it at Carolina Video Edit Centers.
It's a little taste of Mexico right here in Wilmington. La Costa Mexican Restaurant. Start off the night with La Costa Rita or one of their delicious icy cold drinks. Then dig in for delicious La Costa specialties like arroz con pollo, carne asada, seafood molcajete, and fajitas. La Costa Mexican Restaurant with 3 locations in Porter's Neck, Market Street, and Oleander.
Usually when we have a client come to us and say, do you have any low-cost laptops? First thing out of my mouth is, what are you going to use it for? If you're just an internet browser, kicking it around, on Facebook or whatever, then we put you in a certain laptop based off of that. If you're doing video production or anything along those lines, then we of course put you in something that's going to be able to handle those demands. And phones, same way. And what I try to do for the most part is mate all of it together, because having a Windows phone and a Mac computer or a Windows computer and a Mac phone, yes, it's doable and a lot of people do that, but it all boils down to time these days. If you've got all your platforms working harmoniously together, then great, but I'd say majority of people don't at this point, and they're having to do the same thing multiple times, whether it's check emails, put contacts in, or put a calendar on their phone, then go to their computer and do that. We try to make sure that we do it one time and then it syndicates everywhere. If you have everything across the board on the same platform, there's all kinds of great seamless things that you can do where you're not having to do redundant tasks, you're not having to update here to make this work. It all works cohesively together. The traditional hard drives have spinning platters in them like a record player, and the head hits it like a needle. Well, SSD or solid state drives is all one non-moving piece. So your access times are super fast, your read times are super fast. If you have a laptop and you drop it, you don't have to worry about the heads coming unaligned or anything along those lines. The lifetime on them is fairly good and the power consumption is low. It's definitely becoming more affordable and it will make your computer scream like nothing else.
I started out as a tall ship sailor in the late 70s, and I spent about 8 years sailing in the Atlantic and Pacific. I ended up in the South Pacific in New Guinea, where I lived for 9 months building an outrigger sailing canoe with local people there, and that was an amazing time of my life, living in a grass hut on the beach with these artisans and sailors from the South Pacific. While I was there, I was writing short stories and keeping journals and things like that, and I just decided that the best area for me to write was films. So I started writing screenplays, had an agent, wrote another script, got another agent, just kept at it, and then I decided after none of these scripts sold that I should make movies. Why not? So I started making films in the late 90s, all done in Wilmington, did some documentaries, and then always developing feature film projects. And they're so hard to get off the ground because there's so many different elements that you have to have attached all at one time. Everything has to come together, the money, the actors, the distributors and all the crew and everything just has to work at one time, and that just never happened to me until Don't Know Yet. Don't Know Yet is a 90-minute feature film that was produced in conjunction with UNCW and the Film Studies Department. I sort of handpicked some people that I really thought could do the job, and we ended up shooting for 3 weeks in Wilmington and in Asheville. All of our crew was 100% from Film Studies, UNCW, so I was very excited about that, trying out that sort of model of filmmaking where you don't have to spend a lot of money, you just have to feed these hungry kids, 2 or 4 or 5 meals a day. But they worked out great, and we had a great time shooting the film. We edited in the fall of 2012, and in 2013 we started hitting the film festivals. We premiered in New York City in September of 2013, and we've screened in Wilmington, Sedona, Durango, Santa Monica, and at the Cape Fear Independent Film Festival, which was fantastic. We have a distributor called Devolver. We're going to launch our distribution on video on demand and streaming also. And of course, then moving on to some new projects, and hopefully you can repeat this process again and make some more films with young people involved. The Film Studies program has grown from 2 graduates in our first year when we were a full major. That was about in 2002. Now we graduate 100 and some students every year. We have 320 some majors in the program, so it's like one of the top 4 biggest programs at UNCW. We have more than 120 interns that travel around the country, and mostly in North Carolina, but some in LA and New York. We have an internship in England. This is our 5th grant we've received from the Academy Awards Foundation in support of this year of women and minorities to LA. So we're really excited about that, we're getting some recognition from the Oscars. So this summer we'll have more than 40 interns out and about, and I have got to keep track of all of them. With the influx of film projects in Wilmington, we've had a lot of opportunities to place students on some of those projects, and then therefore they get hired after they graduate. So we have so many students that are working on the big shows here in Wilmington that it's really exciting time to be a part of the Film Studies program.
Alpha Mortgage. We're the only full-service mortgage banking firm in southeastern North Carolina. From origination through processing, underwriting, funding, closing, we do it all locally. More than 90 professional staff right here in Wilmington. Alpha Mortgage is the leading mortgage lender in southeastern North Carolina. Alpha Mortgage is the lender more real estate agents and builders rely on. We work with your realtor and your builder every step of the way from application to closing. We have the best rates, best service because we are Alpha. Alpha Mortgage.
Hieronymus Seafood and Oyster Bar, voted best seafood restaurant in Wilmington by Encore magazine readers. Here is where you can count on the freshest local seafood daily, served with fresh herbs selected from their own garden. Enjoy daily chalkboard drink specials in the cocktail lounge. Choose to eat in the Oyster Bar for freshly steamed oysters or crab legs. Or you can dine family style in the comfortable and spacious dining room. Seasonal catch from local waters is always on the menu at Hieronymus Seafood, where fresh is best.
Your passport awaits to 3 of Wilmington's most historic homes. Now for one low admission price, you can visit Bellamy Mansion, the city's grandest antebellum home, Burgwyn Wright House Museum and Gardens, beautifully restored for a step back in history, and Latimer House, representing opulent life in Wilmington before the Civil War. Purchase your passport at any one of the historic home locations and discover 3 great reasons to visit Wilmington's past. Tickets are good for 1 week from the date of purchase.
To put on a garden tour of this magnitude for 3 days, it takes a huge group of people. Our garden club, which is celebrating its 90th year this year, started this tour over 60 years ago. And of course, it's just gotten more and more popular. It started off very kind of low-key, and as Wilmington's grown, our garden tour has just blossomed into this huge event that our entire club spends the entire year getting ready for. Our garden number 1 is the Heritage Garden at Lower Cape Fear Hospice, which is such a unique and inspiring and beautiful garden. There's 3 little gardens along Cavalier Drive that it's a quick little walk between them, and it showcases gardens for gardeners who don't want such a large garden to take care of, something they can get going without a lot of professional help. One thing that's unique about our gardens this year is that none of the private gardens have ever been on the garden tour before. And that is different because we do get repeats and we have lots of favorites that are repeats, but just the way things happen this year, we have brand new gardens. The Cape Fear Garden Club Azalea Garden Bell is the quintessential symbol of our garden tour. Every year in January, we take applications from basically high school seniors because it's so popular. We have to limit it to seniors in high school. My daughter was a belle before I was ever a member of this club. It was just something that, you know, any girl that has any interest in things like in service and drama or theater would like to be a part of this. They spend 3 days doing unbelievably interesting things beyond sitting in the gardens. They get to wear a beautiful hoop dress, an antebellum style dress, and they act as tour guides and emissaries of our club.
Hi, I'm Liz Coughlin, the owner of 4 Seasons Travel, and I'm here today with Eric Kelly. He's my business development manager with Globus Family of Brands and Avalon Waterways. Eric's here today. He's going to talk about the popularity of river cruises and some things you need to know when you are planning your river cruise.
River cruising is one of the fastest growing segments in travel, period. So take advantage of the opportunities that are out there. A lot of river cruise companies are adding vessels. We are adding 2 new ships for 2016. River cruising is kind of the best of ocean cruising and land touring combined. Gives you the ability to enjoy the sights, get off in a particular town along a river, say in France, with get off with 128 passengers, be able to wander the streets, not get off with 2,000 or 3,000 people, but a really great opportunity to experience the destination up close and personal. We have our experienced tour guides at each destination to walk you through the city, the cathedrals, the castles, etc. Most people like the unpack once and leave the driving to us. River cruising is really exceptional in popularity because of the inclusions that are added into the itinerary. You get a short excursion every stop. Wine, beer, and soft drinks are served at dinner, champagne at breakfast. So there are a lot of included features that you'd have to pay for additionally on the big ocean cruise. They nickel and dime you a little bit more. We don't do that on river cruising, a lot more inclusions. Avalon Waterways has quite a selection of river cruises worldwide. We have 16 ships in Europe, but we also have some new ships coming out for Asia. A lot of people that have done Europe are looking to do something a little different, so we have a lot of exotic itineraries to choose from. Avalon Waterways is part of the Globus family of brands. We've been in business since 1928. We're one of the oldest tour operators in the world. Avalon is known for its open-air cabins. These are cabins that are 200 square feet with a wall of glass, and we've turned the whole rooms into the balconies. That's a wonderful innovation in river cruising. We're the only ones where the beds face the water. It's a much more intimate experience than being on the big cruise ships. If you're interested in taking a river cruise, you have to remember that inventory is much less than the major cruise ships. When you realize our largest vessel is 166 passengers, our smallest one is 128 passengers, to be able to get the itinerary you want, you really need to look as far out as possible. Most people are booking at least a year in advance to get the itinerary they want. When you look at the inventory of the large cruise ships, upwards of 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 passengers, it's important with the river cruising that if you want romantic Rhine in September, you start to need to look about a year out in advance so that you can get the cabin you want, the itinerary you want. Think ahead for river cruising. A lot of people ask us sometimes, hey, I'm interested in going 3 or 4 months from now. A lot of inventory will be gone by then. So you must remember, if you're looking for a particular time of year or a particular itinerary, the farther out you book, the better off you are, so that you can get that voyage you're looking for.
Discover more to do and see in Wilmington. See the attractions, events, businesses, and people that make this a great place to live. Keep your eyes on us as we keep our eye on Wilmington. On CBS 10 WILM.
We are one of the oldest peanut plantations in the South. Our time period covers 1795 all the way up until 1971, so we cover a broad spectrum of history. Starting in 1795, it was corn, peas, and beans, but the Foys started purchasing slaves who knew how to grow peanuts, and by 1819, those were grown commercially. We have an agricultural building that will show you how peanuts are harvested. There's actually a peanut thrasher in there. It took between 12 and 15 men to run that. Pretty intimidating piece of equipment. But we're also expanding some of our outbuildings. We've received some generous donations from some neighbors who just have an excessive amount of kitchen items. So we'll be expanding our kitchen. We have crafts people who rotate daily. We have a blacksmith, a loom weaver, and also a basket maker out there giving live demonstrations. We also have some new sheep. We have a micro pig. Some bunnies actually just joined us this morning. So it's pretty exciting to see that grow. And we have a new exhibit that's opening this June. It's a slavery exhibit. We've been working very closely with a historian from UNCW, and Kimberly Sherman has done an incredible job combing through census records, old letters, newspaper clippings. We've been very proficient at telling the story of the Foy family who actually operated the plantation. But there were 59 slaves on site at the time of the Civil War, and we're on the cusp of being able to tell their side of the story. We're also the northernmost tip of the Gullah Geechee corridor that runs from us all the way down to Jacksonville, Florida. Basically, it's a coastal group of slaves from Western Africa. They came over here with their own cultures and traditions that they managed to keep intact during the institution of slavery. Interestingly enough for us, they were proficient at growing peanuts, and that was the cash crop at Poplar Grove. We do have classes too as well. Right now we're offering basket classes. We just completed a class on pine needle coiling, which is very interesting. But we have some actual classes where we'll be weaving, and that will go through the summer. So check our website to stay up on that.